Ain't you sick of giving me your money?
Oh, I know he didn't do it, baby.
Whoa, where you going?
No, I'm about to go make these drop balls.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the 20th, yes, the 20th episode of the BLK Currency Podcast. My name is Bradley DLO Thomas. By day, I am a marketing professional. By night, I turn into Batman and become a producer slash MC, engineer, blah, 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 blah. So I'm going to pass the microphone to the cipher.
So what's up? It's your girl, Opal Elisa. By day, director of multicultural business strategy for a large financial company. By passion, I am a poet, an MC, an author, all of the above. I'll pass the mic.
Word, what's going on? This is Corey Whitmore, owner and founder of Media 22, Studio 22, Radio 22. Man, I'll leave it at that because I'm exhausted.
Right, he needs some little, yeah, you got to put them sound effects on that.
Doing great things. We're all doing great things. For all our listeners out there, we are so happy that you are engaging with the content. We hopefully that you're learning. I know you're learning because we're learning and we're hosts. So today we're just going to kind of reflect upon just some great things and lessons learned that we've come across talking with people during this podcast that have affected our lives and moments. I know all three of us have them. Hopefully you do as well as a listener out there. So I guess the first question I really want to ask the group is, how has this podcast changed how you look at finances in general?
Yeah, for me, I'd say overall, I take more risks. I'm someone who I've shared several times on the show. I've been at every income level you could imagine in the great state of Wisconsin. And so I'm continually learning and continually trying to rise. And with that comes a fear, right? Having to switch from this scarcity mindset into an abundance mindset. And what I've learned from everyone on here is just to be able to take more risks, right? That there's no benefit in beyond a certain cushion. There's no benefit to a straight savings, and really thinking about how does that look for me investing? How does that look for me diversifying? So definitely take more risks. And then I give credit to this all the time. Afra Smith, episode 1, she changed my mindset when it came to credit by gamification of how I use and pay back credit. So those couple things are how this podcast has changed me and how I do finances.
That's what's up. I think for me, it's been, I feel like I can no longer have money and just have it sit and not do something and not work. Yeah. And what I mean by that is, oh man, it's just sitting up in the bank account. No, it's just sitting up in the savings, or I'm just sitting there holding on to cash. Now my mentality is like, if it's just in those places, I'm losing. How do, as has been said so many times, how do I put that to work? How do I make sure that money is in a place where it's making more money? And I can no longer sit idly by and just let it be stored somewhere. Because, it feels like now my mentality is like, well, if it's just in there stored, I'm actually getting behind.
Right.
I'm no longer at least moving with inflation, or at least trying to get ahead of it, depending on where it is and where it's making money. So my brain is always thinking, okay, where can I divvy up the money that I do have into places where it's working, whether it's crypto, whether it's stocks, whether it's trying to set some things up into real estate, whether it's putting my time into marketing things that can help with passive income, and really getting those things out. But as far as just holding on to it, can't do it.
Yeah.
but that's to all of our speakers. That's with all the knowledge and the things that they've shared, and really rewired my concept of what money should be doing, and how it should be active, I guess.
Yeah.
I feel the same way that both y'all feel. Like for me personally, I just looking at different streams of income, and also the technology, and paying attention to what's new on the market. And not being afraid of it. Cryptocurrency, is one example of that. Whether it goes up or whether it goes down, there's going to be another version of cryptocurrency in the future. And actually, me paying attention to it and having some money set aside that I'm okay with. If something were to happen to those funds, it's all right. That's actually set up as a risk for me now. So I'm ready to put money down when it's there too, and just really having a better overall picture of what financial freedom actually looks like, and the steps that go along with it. I knew some of them, but I think some of the mind state stuff, especially in episode 1, Afra, I'm sorry. I want to pronounce your name right. But just looking at money in a different way from a psychological standpoint, and looking, and figuring out how to control it, how I'm feeling emotionally about it, and using it as a tool, as opposed to, like you were saying, Corey, just having it in the bank. Like now I feel bad when I have my money in the bank, because I know, I see my statements now. It's like, yo, you earn like, 0.0, you earn 1 penny,
right?
This year, you know what I'm saying? Because you've been putting thousands of dollars coming in and out, you know what I'm saying? And they've been loaning out money and getting money off of that.
Thanks.
But never giving me any a piece of that, So really just looking at money as, like our podcast says, as currency. Keep it moving. Just don't keep it in one place. You're actually losing money by not moving money. So that's where I've been. Yeah, it's cool. So were there any let's say 3 concepts? Were there any 3 concepts or quotes that really stuck with you over the last 20 episodes at all? Opal?
Man, there were so many. Hard to narrow down. My first one I would say is Jermaine Butler, episode 13, like a 27th inch zenith. That I love, that his Bill Cosby story. Like, to me, like you can't top it like a Bill Cosby story. And we didn't even know he was gonna drop that. Like, we had no idea. But even so, listen to the episode if you want to hear the Bill Cosby story. I ain't gonna retell it. But even in that, we could see that one of the lessons Jermaine had was he does all the jobs. So he was driving Bill Cosby. He owns the limo company, and he was driving Bill Cosby. He also owns a hospitality company, and he's not afraid to take out the trash. He's not afraid to do any of those things. And I just love that about him. Not only does he do all the jobs, but he expands into all the markets. So he started here, but he's in Houston. He's in Florida. He's doing all these things. So he just really showed me that, like, do it all, learn it all, and then don't be afraid to expand and switch things. It's all under Zenith, but it's so many different companies now.
Yeah.
Were there any celebrities that you've kind of met and actually kind of made, like, a little relationship with? Like,
let me tell you this. So I would say probably about 5, maybe about 7, 8. No, it's probably longer than that. Anyway, Bill Cosby.
What?
I'm going to tell you, Bill Cosby, and I call him Billy. I got his phone number still. I'm sure it's not the same. It's not the same.
Okay.
But Bill Cosby will come. He come to Madison every other year and do a show.
I remember that.
Overture Center.
Yeah.
I was the one picking him up at the airport. I pull up next to his plane, pick him up. He walk out. He get in the car. He sit in the front seat, fool with the radio, and I'd be like, Billy, what are you doing? You don't mess with a black man radio. And we get change, right? And it was every time.
Yeah.
And this is my first time telling this public story. So get this. So every time he comes to here, we go to State Street brats. He likes the brats, mustard only. And so he gets in the car and he calls his wife. Hey, I made it to Madison. I'm safe. Hangs up. Calls his daughter. It's all on the Bluetooth, right? Because he automatically connected because he's been in the car before. Right. Calls his wife. His daughter. He's like, yeah, I'll let you know I made it. How are you doing, Dad? He said, like, I'm good. She's like, how you really doing? He's like, I'm good. Well, that woman is back again. And so, so my right. Okay. So I just keep driving. He's like, all right, I'm gonna call my publicist. So he called his publicist. I'm glad you called. What do you want me to do? Blah, blah, blah. He says, whatever you do, don't pay her because I ain't do it.
Oh.
And I'm on East Watch. At this point, I'm on East Watch, right? I'm like, all right. It ain't none of my business. Right. So we get to State Street brats. And we sitting there eating our brat outside. Nobody knew who he is. They probably thought he was my granddad or something. And so I'm like, Billy, we got to talk about the elephant in the room, man. Well, he says, well, Mr. Jermaine, he calls Mr. Jermaine, tell you something. Every time I go to make a major purchase, there's a woman that shows up and says I did these things to her. He said last week I signed a deal to buy NBC. Now, check this shit out. This is no bullshit. Last week I signed a deal to buy NBC. He said, I can't tell you if I had sex with this woman or not, but I know I didn't take it. And he said, she makes these claims about these drugs, me giving her drugs. He was like, it was the 70s. If she was doing drugs, I was doing them too. Like this. Right. Yeah. You're right. Straight up. And he said, back then I was Denzel.
That's right.
That's a fact.
Right. So I'm like, okay, man. I'm like, you don't have to explain this to me, man. I just wanted to know. We get to the Overture Center, we pull up, and there's a whole bunch of people out there. They want signatures. He says, Mr. Jermaine, go pick 2 people. I said, you want to just pick 2? He said, either you pick 2 or you sign my name on everybody's stuff. Right. So I got out the car. I was like, you and you, come here. So he signed. He went to upstairs. And I said, he had on like a sweatshirt and some sweatpants. And I said, are you gonna change for the show? He said, they didn't pay for a suit. Oh. They paid for Bill Cosby. He said if they wanted a suit, it's gonna cost them more. I said, okay. I'm learning. I'm picking up the knowledge, right? I'm like, okay, yeah, for sure. He went on stage, and his whole set was about me picking him up and driving him all the way to the thing. Them people applauded, stood up. I mean, it was crazy how he put it together.
So he basically freestyled the show.
The whole show.
That's amazing.
Wow.
He talked about the lady. He talked about the phone call. He talked about me and him at State Street Brothers. And I'm backstage. I'm like, yeah. So afterwards, we getting ready to leave, and they hand him like a briefcase, like a briefcase with money, like something you see in the movies, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, some bullshit.
And so I'm like, are we taking this? He was like, oh yeah, we taking it. The money's in there. And I was like, is it cash? He's like, yeah, it's cash.
What? And
I was like, man, I'm like, you don't have no security? He said, I never had security. He said, I never had security. And he took the cash. I took him back to his plane and said Billy on the side. He got in and flew up.
Wow.
That's
2 days later, 2 days later, it hits the news. Bill Cosby accused of all this stuff, blah, 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 blah. It was that woman, the older one with that kind of looked like a man, kind of. Yeah. It was her. And then a little bit after that, it was like 30 women. Then I'm like 60 women. I'm like, dog, come on, man. Like, I was on your side for a minute, bro.
Right. It's getting out of hand now, right? Right. Everybody can't be lying.
Yeah, right, man. Right. So, but and he also said that the woman wanted to be an actress, and and he was like trying to mentor her, but nobody was hiring her. So he paid her way through college. He said, so and I heard this first before the accusations, so I'm kind of biased now. I'm Team Billy. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. I got on a Hillman shirt. Let the record show.
Right.
A different world is why I went to college.
So I'm Team Billy. But yeah, that story just you know, in my eyes, he Dr. Huxtable.
One that stuck out to me, I gotta start when I know it's already been referenced, but I gotta start with episode 1, the money management. Afro Smith, Afro Smith. Let me pronounce it correctly. I know we're struggling. Just to talk about, and I've never looked at my money management and habits in this way, but to analyze your triggers. That was so completely revolutionary that that has never come to my peripheral at all, to actually say, what are the things that is triggering you to do X, Y, and Z when you're spending that money? And many times, as we talked about, spending that money, wrongly or in an ineffective way, where you're actually blowing it or spending it on things that you don't necessarily need, and how all those habits contribute to not having that money that you're supposed to be stashing away, whether it's emergency, whether it is to make more money for you through investments and other things of that sort, and really breaking those down and figuring out what those connections are, like that behavioral rewiring, for lack of a better term, was just like, whoa, because it's our first episode, and I'm thinking when I hear money management, I'm thinking spreadsheets and Excel, and you got to get on the QuickBooks. But she did an amazing job of breaking it down fundamentally before you even get there. Here are the things in your foundation. Here are the things in your psychology that needs to be right. Before you even start taking the step of tracking, start taking the step of bookkeeping and seeing where all these things are going. You got to be able to control where that's going. There's, if you can't do that, you can do all the bookkeeping and accounting practices and stuff in the world, but if you can't control how you're spending it, where you're spending it, why you're spending it, it's always going to be an uphill battle. So for me, that was a crucial gem to build a foundation of really being able to navigate this financial landscape that that we're trying to tackle. So episode 1,
absolutely.
In terms of finance, just on the basic things, like what are the basic habits that you do every single day that kind of puts your mind in the right place to make these changes and to help people?
I definitely say that this is the number one thing that we have to switch on, because we've learned bad behaviors for a generation, right? And we actually add on some additional bad behaviors. Now, I share my story very openly about the fact that before I got to this place, to kind of make it real and to normalize it, I had to be open. And that is what aortic really is. It's my personal journey to becoming well. And so aortic is really 80% of what a person needs to know to master their budget. And it's kind of unlearning bad behaviors that we've, again, don't really recognize are bad. I was clubbing Thursday through Sunday. That was my lifestyle, right? I bought rounds for everybody. That was my lifestyle. I had brand new outfit. You name it, I had it. And even when I was broke, I was buying rounds for everybody as if I was just, living the life, because that's what everybody else was doing. And don't get me wrong, I lived my best life, but there were consequences for that behavior that you don't really realize, that you're just following what everybody else is doing. And so if you want to live different and be different, then you have to start to really educate yourself on the importance of the things that you do every day, you don't do every day, can really impact you. So I always talk about your triggers, and we all have them. And the reason why I call myself a financial wellness coach is because this is a wellness issue. Because anytime you will put your health, transportation, your food, your housing at risk so that you can be out in the community kicking it, that's a wellness issue. And so a lot of folks, question me about that term, but I do. I'm a financial wellness coach because in order for me to get you to understand how to put the numbers in a spreadsheet, which is super simple, I have to first start with your mind and to get you to understand. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to get off track, but these are the consequences. And this is how you get back on track. These are the boundaries that you need to have with yourself. You know your lifestyle. You know how you're living. So you know how to make the necessary adjustments to make sure that you can be successful.
Yeah, I got to piggyback off you because I was like, man, he used episode 1. I was going to use episode 1. It was so good. It was so good. She was just such a great energy and a person to talk to, man. You know, she said something about, I think it's if you can't buy it twice, you probably shouldn't be buying it.
Right.
And it just made me think like I'm just buying stuff, but I know I can't buy that twice. I know I can't buy that twice. You know, just having that psychology in your head and thinking at it from a very mental space was very helpful for me. Instead of just, you know, thinking it's a thing, because it is in your head. You know, when we really think about it, I mean, you know, it's kind of like what Randy was saying. It's all of this stuff is coming in through banks. It's just numbers. You know, you ain't actually getting no checks no more. You know, you know. You ain't going to the bank and, you know, taking out dollar bills no more. You know, I go to the store right now, you know, I think I pulled out a $5 bill, man. This dude was lost, you know, trying to figure out change. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I'm 45. So I'm like, all right, hey man, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, $5, you know, $1.37, you know what I'm saying? You might change.
Right.
But yeah, just that psychology, I think that, you know, thinking from the mind first, and then everything comes out through the mind and your actions, and it determines your lifestyle, and you can control that. Most people aren't thinking about money like that because they're living day to day, because they don't know about all the other tools, which were discussed in many other episodes, you know, through the last 20 that we've had. So definitely what Afra Smith was dropping, it was like, man, it was really good. Like I think we were blessed to have her on the first episode. It was a great kickoff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll add to that. Another episode kind of moment for me was Tiffany Malone, episode 9, with the real estate part 2. Number 1, she's just an amazing storyteller. My gosh, like I've known her for like decades, and I still didn't know all the things that she was going to drop on us for her personal story and for her professional story. But I recall her saying that, like, you know, she's talking about being a real estate agent, and you know, she's like, you're gonna be broke for 2 years, right? And I think that like her story and her example is something that we've heard through a lot of folks who've had to like work this full-time job while also working another full-time job on their dream. And you know, her sharing, you know, my dad said I was crazy, people said don't do it, don't give up this government job, and how she was able to figure that out being a single mom too, but really with this mindset of, you know, I need to build wealth. I need something that's going to sustain. I need something that's going to be bigger than this. And then her give back game being so strong after that. Like that's what she does. Like she's a full-time real estate broker now. And in addition to that, you know, she is spending her free time teaching people how to build wealth. You know, she's like, folks who aren't even able to be my client yet, I'm showing them how to get to a place where they can buy homes. And I know her to do that personally. She's also doing a lot with different organizations and the Alvarado group and stuff too. So I just really liked all the stuff that she brought in and was able to really kind of share with all of us. And it was super inspiring to me. So love that, especially her being a Black woman in the real estate game, which is additionally hard. I thought she had a great story and some great tips too.
My question to you is, why real estate? What pulled you to that field in particular? What's the attraction? And with everything that you said, like, you know, I go online and I see people say, oh, sold. So I was just assuming people was getting money.
Talk about it. Yeah.
So with what you had just told us about how hard it is to really get started in those first 2 years, why real estate? Why should somebody else choose real estate? And what keeps you there?
I've always been interested in real estate since I was young. Like, we would go down south to my family's. I would spend my summers in Kentucky. My mom would send me with my aunt and uncle in Kentucky, and I would spend my summers there. And my uncle in Kentucky had a lot of real estate, but I couldn't comprehend back then because I was so young. But we would go to like different houses and he'd say, I own this land over here, I own that over there. And then I'd come home and I'd be like, so why are we in this apartment then if Uncle Joe owned this? Like, what's going on? I'm not understanding. So then like I would like pick up magazines and see for sale, like things that were for sale, or we'd drive by and see like for sale houses, and then I'd just be interested in it. And then as I surrounded myself around people that were investing their money in real estate, and I hear conversations about how much money they're making and what they're doing, I got interested. So then I started researching like, well, if I do this, I can do this. Or if I do this, I can do this. Because mind you, nobody in my family they've never owned a home. Like nobody taught me anything about credit, about home ownership, about leveraging the money that you have in your home, like none of that. So either I surrounded myself around these people that knew this, or I did my research on my own. So when I did quit my state job, I was going through that, little midlife crisis, but I was smart enough to know that I needed some type of income coming in. So I took another leap of faith and didn't really know anything then still. Bought a 4-unit building in Bloomington, Illinois. That was $57,000. I bought it with a friend, and each unit rented out for $500.
Nice.
So even though I didn't know the concept of what I was doing, I kind of knew what I was doing, right? Because nobody taught me. So I knew that if I quit my job, then I'm not going to have any income, so I won't have proof of income to buy something. So I better do this before I quit my job, and then I'll have something in. So it was kind of like I was on this path all along, but I just never knew I was on this path. And I wanted to be able to come and go as I pleased. I wanted to be able to drop my kids off at school, to pick them up from school, to volunteer at my kids' school if I wanted to. And I didn't want to be stagnant in my income. I wanted to be able to work so hard that my income showed for it. And when I was at the state of Wisconsin, I could process those claims with my eyes closed, but I'm still going to make the same amount of money at the end of the day. It doesn't matter if I process 5, if I process 30, like it doesn't matter. But it matters if I produce 5 million in sales or 20 million in sales. That's something that I'm doing. I have control over that. I wanted to be able to have control over my income and then pave the way for my kids so that they wouldn't have to worry if something happened to me, or to leave them something and then to leave my grandchildren something. I wanted generational wealth for everybody behind me. Like I wanted to break the generational curse and not my kids being brought up on food stamps and medical assistance and low income housing and anything of that nature. Not saying that there's anything wrong with it, because I lived in low income housing. I've had food stamps. I'm saying that I don't want I wanted to pave the way so that my kids would have something different. So that's how the whole real estate started. But I think that I've always been on the path, but I just was so focused on what everybody told me that I should do, or what everybody around me was doing. Like I didn't have the proper circle to think outside of the box.
For people that have seen most of the episodes, you've probably heard me reference this one a few times. But I got to give it up to Mr. Bob Wynn, which is episode 3. I think it was an introduction to stocks. Man, there's a notebook out of that one. Like that was
OG right there.
We gotta bring him back. We gotta bring him back. And with Dr. Floyd Rose. I want to hear the two of them talking about the 80s. That's what I want to hear.
Oh my gosh. It was a straight clinic. But for people that know me, I'm involved in I do the fantasy football thing. I've been doing it for a few years. I like watching football and decent at the whole fantasy thing. But when he equated that to the things that I do in fantasy, as far as knowing the players, the teams, what's trending, so and so's injured, or oh man, he ain't got a good offensive line, I'm not going to pick him as a quarterback, things of that sort, and how that can move, and how that can be translated into how you evaluate stocks. was just one of those like multiple explosions in my head. like what are you doing? But I've found myself watching a little bit more Bloomberg, watching a little bit more CNBC, and starting to, I guess get familiar with, in this case, the companies, but if I'm taking back to fantasy football, get familiar with the players in the game, the CEOs, the coaches, why things are trending in different directions, picking up a little bit more about world news, because that's things that are going in the world are influencing those stock prices, and starting to now piece those things together as I would look at a football team. If they got the new coach, it's a new system. It's going to take them time to get up to speed. Oh, you got a rookie running back. We don't know how that's going to work coming in. I may not want to take that risk. We may take the veteran and with these businesses. And that comes easy to me. For me as someone that's watched football for a while, that comes easy to me. I would have never equated that with the stock game, and taking that same mentality, but then applying it here. And as I've started to, like I said, pick up and watch a little bit more of those channels and see and a lot of the terminology and stuff that was broken down in that episode, I'm like, okay, I understand. I know what that means. I know why this is happening. I feel I can start making predictions as I do for the football season in stocks now. It's it's really been a game changer. And I think sometimes people have the skill set for things they don't know that they actually do.
Absolutely.
And I think that was one of those things. If he would have came in and said, hey, can you do fantasy football? Oh yeah, I'm great at that. Oh, how good are you at predicting stocks? I'm like, oh man, I wouldn't even know where to start. But now what he said is, you can take that same skill set. Now you may have to get up on the terminology on some of the CEOs and things of that sort. You got to familiarize yourself with the players, but it's the same thing. And for me, I was like, that's all I needed to really take a deeper dive into that and see what I can do in that world as well. So episode 3, introduction to stocks, Bob Wynn.
Fantasy football. Now, I don't know exactly how you play it, but I remember a friend of mine at the Urban League invited me to come in when they were going to do a draft. And they're just looking at these players and looking at their stats and evaluating who they're going to pick based upon how they performed on a position. And I just walked out of there. That's what we do with a stock. We're just looking at certain elements and qualities and the context of their competition. And, and so, I don't know what kind of rewards you get from spending all that time and effort playing fantasy football. I guess you can make a little something, but it's sort of a one-off deal. Somebody wins at the end of the season and everybody else is kind of going on to do something else. But the stocks, we can all evaluate those. We can pick our portfolio that's like a team, and we can put somebody out from our team and bring somebody else in when we want to, and it will keep it going. And it doesn't have a season that ends in January. It continues in February, March, April, May, June. So it's kind of like, are we focused on the most of our time and energy on the right thing, or are we sort of real misplaced with where we're putting all of our time, energy, focus, and all of that? And if you want to have a good time bantering about and bragging, do it with stocks. You can do the same thing.
Oh, that's dope. For me, I have to say, episode 18 with Lawrence Pearson, where he was kind of going through his story and talking about what he had been through. And I know him, but I didn't know that while I was, partying and kicking it, he was building a legacy, and it made me put things back into perspective. Like, you got to focus in on what you're doing And the more you do that, the better you're going to get over time. And on top of that, he still is excelling in so many different areas in his life. You know, professionally, he runs his own business, you know, international business, and something that he has a passion for. So I kind of connected to that because I have a passion for music and, you know, the arts and creativity. But knowing that you could take that outside of the realm of, you know, just working a regular 9 to 5, and still be prosperous, still be a great father, you know, still be supportive, and still be humble. You know, he didn't, you know, he wasn't, you know, a lot of people in that position could have said, I'm this, I'm that, or, you know, really, you know, puff their chest out, or, you know, throw it in people's faces. But no, he just continuously works. He gets better. He's constantly learning. He's always curious. I mean, just his whole story was just inspiring to me to say, like, hey, if this guy can do it, you know, I know our listeners were like, I can do it too.
So you took this to a whole nother level, like you do with everything. So tell us a little bit, tell us a little bit about that. Like, how did you start that? In terms of like build up the business, you know, getting the clientele, like what was that process like? And was there any parallels between that and like what you had to go through in the military, or what you've had to go through as a professional, you know, executive?
Right. So it started out in martial arts, where I got my black belt at 16, going on 17 years old. And after I got my black belt, my instructor asked me if I wanted to teach, and I said, yeah. So I went through the certification process and learned how to be an instructor, learned how to run a business at 16. I was the assistant head instructor by 17 years old. So I was signing people up, bringing money in, scheduling, doing all those things. And then by the time I was 18 in high school, a school teacher reached out to me and said, hey, I got a couple people in the ALA program, Accelerated Learning Academy, that would like to do martial arts. Can you come teach? And so that's how it started. I started teaching martial arts there. And then Gold's Gym on Highway 30 back in
I remember that.
90s. It was a huge gym, one of the best in the world, actually. It had one of the owners, the actual owner, with a martial artist back in the day with my instructor. And he was like, hey, I saw that you just won a competition. I was like, yeah, I just won. And he was like, well, why don't you teach here? And he said, I can make you 70% owner of your business, and we'd be 30. And he was like, this would be your business. And so I did it. And the very first week I had classes, I think I had 40 something people in class, and we never dipped that far under 20 people per class. The program ran very strong. And then I got deployed, and Gold's Gym got sold. And my sister was over in Iraq and got to come back after 6 months. I talked to my mom and sister, and my mom's like, hey, we're going to set up an LLP all the way so that you and Clarissa can do this when you get back. And we kept some of our students that we had, and we started off at the Wilmar Neighborhood Center when I got back from Iraq, and the gym started to grow from there. We had people that are like, hey, we want to do a point fighting tournament. So we're like, sure, fine. So for about 4 or 5 years, we were undefeated in point fighting tournaments. All our students were. My sister was competing. I pretty much kind of hung up the gloves from competing. I was competing in Hungary when I was deployed in Hungary, and had a successful run there. But I said, I don't really care about competition anymore. I just want to see the gym grow. And it was growing. And then we had people come in and said, hey, we want to do MMA. And so I was like, well, I'm not that good on the ground, but my grandmother had brought Helson Gracie into Madison for a couple weeks, and I got to train under Helson Gracie, which is the highest ranking living Gracie right now. And I was able to train under him, but my jiu-jitsu is not on that level. I'm a stand-up martial artist. But I said, yeah, let's do an MMA fight. So my student went out there, did well, but lost. I regrouped with my sister. We revamped our curriculum. And after we did that, we won 3 fights in a row in MMA. And then more people started coming to us in MMA. And a couple fights later, we won 4 in a row. And then our students started really taking off, and the gym started to grow. And then some other students are like, hey, we want to do the Muay Thai championships. And we did the Muay Thai championships. We lost. I'm also trained in Muay Thai. And I was like, man, we got to regroup again, redo the curriculum again. So that's what we did. And the following year, we went off and won some fights there, got second place overall this is the largest Muay Thai tournament in the nation, if not the world. And so ours got second place in it as an adult. And then we started hooking up with other gyms, and people started coming to me for kickboxing and Muay Thai. And I was over watching a fight in Chicago, and I met my favorite kickboxing athlete named Remy Bonjasky. He's from Holland, a brother from Holland, one of the most successful kickboxers of all time. He said, hey, are you ever in Europe? I'm like, I'm in Europe sometimes twice a year. That's where my ex-wife was from. And so he said, I'd like to have you come over and train. So I trained with him.
Man, that's a hell of a story, man.
Yeah. He was dope. And you're right about that humble piece. I think that's a common thread for a lot of our dope guests too, because it's like we wouldn't have them on if we didn't know they were dope. But then once they get on and get to talking, you're like, damn, like, you're amazing. And you've been amazing for a minute. So I love that. My third spot goes to Dominique Johnson. Episode 5, retirement planning, right? And I think it's because when I think about like who's actually kind of like changed my mind in my life, a lot of my habits, right, Dominique Johnson. So I think he really got me thinking about the long term, because at least for me, I'll speak for myself, like retirement seems so far and it seems so boring, right? But like we know we ain't that far from it right now, right? Like used to be really far when I was 22. It's not that far now. And he's someone that actually, from the show, I've developed a professional relationship with, and I have some of the products. Like he helps me manage some things and take some risks that I never would before. But him being Black, him being from our community, him being able to just be real was the piece, right? It was the piece. I've been offered many of these same, or similar products before. Right. Him being able to talk and make me feel comfortable enough to say, hey, here are my numbers. And I feel like I am playing catch up. I feel like I've had a lot of education for a long time, and I'm just now in the past few years getting money where I think I have extra. And he was able to be like, you are okay. Calm down. You're not catching up. You do way better than most. He never talked to me as if it was just me. He always talked to me knowing what my situation is, taking care of my daughter, being a single mom. He always talked to me understanding that I helped my own mother out. And so it was always him bringing my family to the table, which was extremely important for me. And he understood my goals. So he really kind of changed my thinking. And like I said, he changed my portfolio, changed it, right? And made so many things make sense for me. So the whole episode was just dropping gems. And like, he's just like that. Like DLO, I know you've known him and worked with him for a grip, but like, he's like that every time, every call, every meeting, every time. He's dropping some additional knowledge, and he really makes sure that you understand and you feel comfortable. And I never felt pressure one time. If somebody would try to sell me, I'd have been out. It was never that. And he's actually like helped me a lot. So it's been pretty dope.
What is an entry level for someone that says, hey, I would love to start to get that life insurance. I'm probably going to be taking bits and pieces from my checks. What do I need to get started?
So the place you start, Corey, and it's crazy. I meet people with they like, oh, I got a $25,000, $50,000, $100,000 policy, and I'm like, why? And they're like, I don't know. This is what they said. What I care about is that my clients have enough insurance, have life insurance, if they ride off into the sunset, that I can bring their family what they need, right? So as far as barrier of entry, $100, Corey, you look, I know you got good genes. What, you probably 35? Well, how old are you?
Man, I don't even want to put out it. I'm 41, bro.
All right. You 41. 41. $1 million.
Don't crack, man.
You're right, exactly. That's what I asked. I'm 65. And so at 41, $1 million life insurance policy probably costs $50, $60 a month.
Say that again.
And $1 million policy costs 50, 60 bucks a month. And I'm not, but I see those like advertisements for like these different companies. I'm like, man, these companies are garbage, but I like it because it gets people thinking. So what I want, this notepad time. What I want y'all to do is walk away with your number. Okay. This is what's most important. Most of our clients want to make sure that they can take care of a mortgage for their family if something happens to them.
Right.
That their debts are paid off.
Right.
That they could pay for a funeral.
Right.
That they could pay for higher education for their kids if they're not here, if they want to go. A lot of people say, well, what if my kids don't want to go? Look, if you ain't here, you don't care about that. And they're replacing your income. So whatever your bill money is that your spouse, family, partner needs from you, you multiply that by how many years you want to replace it by, right? So if you bringing in $50,000, you say that's $2,500 after tax. That's about $30,000 a year. So we bringing in $30,000 after tax for 10 years. Replace your income for 10 years. That's $300,000, right? Until retirement, 20 years. That's $600,000. So we got. Corey, this for you, right? We got $600,000 of just our bill money is $3,000 a month. We know Corey got M's. And then we got, man, have y'all paid for a funeral?
I personally never have. No,
not personally.
I've seen the cost though.
Yeah, I know they're high.
A box is $10,000. And if you got a church, that's good. That's, got some grandmas in there cooking or got something to hook up, you're going to be at 20 minimum. Okay. The first funeral we had to pay for was my girl's dad, and he was 44.
Oh wow!
Oh my!
And he died unexpectedly. He had a stroke, and he's an amazing human. And this was the first time that I realized, that what I really do is important, but. Paying for a funeral is not fun. You don't want to be short, and they will hit you with that bill right after the funeral, right? They like, oh, you want this, so that's another $25,000. Higher education for the kids, right now that's about $25 a year. That's $100 a kid.
Right.
Yep.
Corey, you got kids?
Yep, I got 2 boys.
2 boys. We send them if something happening.
Oh yeah, we got to set them up.
There we go. That's $825, and then the crib. We'll say today that's $400. We had 1.1.
Right.
So long story short, and not to get all personal, we made all those numbers up, right? We put an asterisk at the bottom, but for for me, it's most important that my clients know though that we're not just making something up, right? If you go into X life insurance, company, and they say, "What's your budget?" You're in the wrong spot, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's a red flag.
Right. Exactly.
I think he could almost be a psychiatrist.
Facts.
Yeah, man.
If he wanted to pivot, I'm like, oh yeah, if he did that, that would make sense too.
Yes.
Just the way, just the way he's. He instills that confidence in you, the way he breaks things down, and it's really an open conversation. It's not like you should be doing this, and putting that guilt sometimes on folks when folks feel like they haven't put their money in those places. It's never that with him.
Yeah.
So it's incredible. That's a good one. I think the last one I'll reference would be episode 6 with Randy Webb. Crypto rules everything around.
Oh yes, sir.
And it's not, for me, it wasn't just one thing. It was just one of those episodes where I was just completely fascinated by all of the different things that were talked about and discussed. The whole conversation stretched my brain in a way that hasn't happened, too often, because it seemed like it just created a whole host of other possibilities that I didn't even know were there.
Yeah.
When looking at money and currency and what can be done now, when we started to get into the NFTs and different things, and I think I'm not sure. I think Opal, I think it may have been your question about is there a marketplace for can it operate like an eBay or whatever? Yeah. And for him to reply that, man, that's already out. I'm like, are you serious?
Yeah.
It was like, wow. Part of me, it was like, am I that far behind? And then the other part of me, it was like, this thing is moving so fast. And I feel so blessed to be in a position to be able to access that type of information.
Yes.
Because, walking into that and many of the things that I feel like every guest has brought in something that has been like that. Either I always say light bulb from the Despicable Me stuff or whatever. I'll say, I'll be thinking like, ooh, light bulb. I get that I think we've gotten that from every guest that we've had. In this particular episode, for me, as far as my understanding of crypto and NFTs and where things were headed, it was just multiple light bulbs, and just my concept of money, currency, role of banks, different monetization models and things. It was just shooting off in 80 different directions. You can do that. Oh wow, you can make that. Okay, well, can you do this and can you do that? It was just crazy. So, for episode 6, Randy Webb, Crypto Rules Everything Around Me. That's a game changer.
Can you kind of break down and you made one yourself? Can you kind of break down the process of how to how to make one and what are the advantages of it and just everything about it that
Absolutely. So NFT, non-fungible token, just means something that's rare, something that's just yours, is one of a kind, right? Your music would only be your music. Your art would only be your art because you drew it. Right. So that's what an NFT is. And then also an NFT, determining what blockchain that you build it on. So we already talked about blockchain. It's just a peer-to-peer system. It allows me to take my product straight to my consumers without having to have a middleman. I don't need the record company anymore. Right. I don't need the art district. I don't need a art gallery because art gallery gonna rob me of 50%. Okay. Right. And I keep royalties forever with art that I drop as an NFT. So first thing you want to consider is, what is it that you want to do? Okay. Second thing is, what blockchain will tailor to the type of art or music that I want to put down, right? So Ethereum, what's happening with Ethereum right now, you guys may Bored Apes Yacht Club, big ticket items are pretty normal on Ethereum because the gas fees for Ethereum, you're going to pay between 100 to 200, maybe even more for the gas fees. Some gas fees are $1,000 based off the cost. Right. So, but I look at Ethereum as that luxury driver. Okay. So you buying big ticket items. So if you're going to have a big ticket item, you'll build on the Ethereum blockchain, okay? Or if you're like, well, no, I don't really want to charge my people that much money. I want it to kind of be organic. You might look at crypto.com, something simple. I haven't built on top of theirs yet. It doesn't look like they're following the traditional blockchain system. It looks like they're using regular currency, but it's still, they're doing something with the blockchain, okay? So you can drop an NFT on crypto.com. Snoop Dogg has NFTs on crypto.com. Okay. Oh, nice. You can build an NFT on Cardano. That's where I built my NFT on. I want to keep a cheaper value, cheaper gas fees. And Cardano is up and coming. Also, it's an upcoming project. Cardano is $1.25 per token right now. Okay.
Oh wow.
So when I charge people, I'm like, hey, my project costs 105 ADAs. So right now it's 105 times 120, and that's what they're going to pay for that project. Well, eventually that's going to go up, and you're still going to charge 105 ADAs. Okay, because it just went up in value. So you're going to determine which blockchain you want to drop on, how much data it's going to require. Most of these blockchains, these apps built on the blockchains for NFTs, Solana, for example, only 60 megabytes. Most of them were 100 megabytes. Cardano, I was able to use another company to actually download my whole 1-hour class as an NFT onto their blockchain. So that's why I had to end up using them. and then you want to create promotion around it. Okay, so if you're already a hot artist, maybe you run your own Instagram. So Tory Lanez, you're already a hot artist, right? Got his Instagram. He got everybody pumped up about him dropping the NFT. We knew exactly where to go. He said, "I'm gonna drop it on this day," and there was a huge frenzy around because that's important. How you launch is important. And so I was there. He launched. My daughter called me up, and my daughter's like, "Man, Pops, I just bought." She ended up buying it she bought the NFT for like $100, but there was some mix-ups behind it. He basically sold his NFT for $1. Okay, so he made the NFT creator. Listen, you can do whatever you want with it. If you're hot, drop an NFT. Okay, he dropped his album for $1, and so boom, people bought that album. And if you bought a lot of them, see, had I know $1, you would, to make a really good profit of that, you would want to buy 100,000 of his albums, because that price can be very slow. Why? Because it's a lot. He made up 1 million of them. So we would have to look at the numbers. How many followers do we have? How many people really listen to his album? How many people really buy his album? Is it really 1 million people that are like fans? Because there's not a lot of demand for it because you put so much out. Okay, had you put like 10,000 copies out or 100,000 copies out, that would have been different. So because of that, there was an initial frenzy where some people bought for more than $1. But now I see them going for $2 right now. So if you bought for $1, you get a profit of 100%. Okay. Obviously, you would want to take 10,000 of them and turn 10,000 to 20,000. Your promotion is going to be big, and your partnerships of when you drop an NFT is going to be big. The magical number has literally been 10,000 or below as far as dropping NFTs. Create an ecosystem around it. What are your people going to get when they buy your NFT?
Right. Yeah.
Right. Maybe you own a restaurant or something. So hey, I'm only gonna put out 1,000 NFTs, and you get this 1,000 NFTs. As soon as you come to my restaurant, hey, listen, you go to the front of the line, or maybe you're a club. Okay, you get red rope. If you own this NFT, you just show the NFT, you get red rope service. Okay, and then they know that they have something of value that they can now sell now too.
I can't agree with you more. I mean, Randy is soon to be Dr. Webb. Is nice. I've known him for some time. He's one of the most inspirational, intelligent, just you know what I'm saying, like well-rounded, able to break down simple concepts in a way where you can understand them. Just a blessing to have. I mean, I was so happy he came on and shared that with us, because he gave us a lot more than what we asked for. There's a couple of episodes I'm gonna share here. Obviously Dominic got me thinking long term. He got me thinking about 21 the year 2100. Like, yo, you need to set something up where it can help out your grandkids, and then they'll have something to work with in the future. And like you were saying, Opal, in a very relaxed, calm way, where it's, hey, what do you got? Bring it to the table. I'm here to work with. What's your plan?
Yes.
I love that just talking with them too. I think another inspirational moment too was for some of our younger listeners was for Ari Zafari. And when she was coming and talking about real estate and breaking down those barriers of, sometimes people feel like they might be too young to get started in something. Right. I like the fact that she came on professional and was sharing how, what she was doing, the educational steps to do what she was doing, and just, sharing her experience and her story up to this point. I think a lot of people connected with that from a younger generation, like, okay, if she can do it, I can too. Right. So absolutely. those were the three parts that really touched me. In addition to the other ones I shared, I mean, all of them have just been great. Incredible. There's so much content that I could talk about this for another hour, like this episode there, and
what are some of the mistakes that first time home buyers should avoid when trying to purchase a home or get real estate or get into this game of wealth?
Yeah. So when I read that question, a whole list of things kind of came to my mind, and then I wanted to spin it just because so many negative things were coming to mind. I wanted to spin it to how can we be good homeowners and good home buyers? And what I came up with was in watching, I'm obviously a fan of this podcast in general. I've been tuning into the episodes, and we watched the credit repair episode, and that is a huge thing. I think that a lot of home buyers don't realize that credit is a huge thing that you want to tackle before you're thinking about buying anything. Because one, you're going to get better loan values. You're just going to get a better experience in general when you have good credit. And then secondly, just getting yourself ready to buy. You want to protect that credit, like I said, at all costs, but also just protecting your finances in general, making sure that you are budgeting correctly. You don't need to always have the nicest thing. And sometimes when you are living conservatively, it's going to pay off always in the end. So I think that that's what I would say first and foremost. Make sure that you are in the financial position to buy. And then secondly, just not getting pre-approved is a big mistake that I see a lot of buyers making in this market. You need to be pre-approved. It's just good to be pre-approved in general to see what you can actually afford. You don't want to go out looking for houses that you start to fall in love with and then realize, oh no, I can't afford it just yet. So get pre-approved and be looking at things that you can actually afford.
But I guess going forward, what do y'all hope to see in the next, in the next episodes, the next 20, the next 50, the next 100 that we have together? Like what are some ideas?
Yeah, so yeah, for me, just more Black wealth, like, right. Just like you were saying, like thinking of the generations in the future, I've learned so many different ways that people are getting income, making money, building businesses, and really like meeting needs of folks. So that for sure. And if I could call in something, what I would really love to see when I'm thinking about this is like, we've seen, Lawrence, who he works with his sister. I would love to see a husband and wife. So I would really love to see like Lisa Payton Care and her husband Kaleem Care. Like I feel like that would be dope as hell. They both doing their thing, right? Yep. Both different lanes, different passion, but all of it comes back to health, wealth, and the community and building it up. So I would love if they could come have a conversation, if we could just be quiet, right? Like they could just
how y'all balance all that? Like, sure.
That's my wish list right there for BLK Currency is them on that.
I think two things pop out, especially in the next 20. One, whether it's Randy or someone else to come back and for us to continue to dive into cryptocurrency and NFTs and things of that sort. There was, I can't speak for anyone else, but for me, like I said, I had to catch up just in that episode. And now that I feel I have somewhat of a foundation, I would love to build on that. So I'm still just fascinated with that conversation and how quickly things are moving and where things are going. So I would love to bring in, one or a few more people to talk about crypto and NFTs. The second thing I'm extremely interested in is banking Black. Bringing in a representative from a Black bank. I know we have one in Milwaukee. So I would love to have someone affiliated with the Milwaukee or working at the Milwaukee bank or really, any bank in general. I wouldn't mind if Killer Mike came on and talked about what they've been putting together and things of that sort as well with Greenwood and stuff. So those are things that have really piqued my interest.
Yeah, there's 3 topics that I would really like someone to come in and kind of break down. Number one, trucking. How that business works. I know a few people. I'm not going to say any names right now because I got to talk to them first. But just coming in and talking about like, what's the process like? Like, how do you gain a profit? What's the starting cost for that? Because I know there's a lot of money to be made in logistics and transportation of goods across the country. And I know there are Black-owned businesses doing that in Wisconsin and across the nation. So having a person come in and talk about that would be great. I'm also interested in someone who's doing Airbnb rentals across like the Midwest and how they got started with that. Even with, I know people are doing it with rental units. I don't know how that works. I just would love to see how people are doing that. And another thing I'd like to hear about is how there's ways I know there's ways to use whole life insurance plans as your own, basically your own bank.
Absolutely.
I'm just not sure how everything works. I've done a little bit of it myself, but I would like somebody to come in and really break down how you're basically borrowing from yourself and paying yourself back interest. And at the same time, you'll have a death benefit when you die. I've been to seminars, but I would really like someone who looks like, who is Black, that is doing this consistently. And this is their lifestyle. So those are the three topics I'd be interested in hearing about.
And I do want to put this out to our audience. If there are topics you would like to hear about, make sure to leave us something in the comments, whether you're on YouTube. If you are on Spotify, I will create a question there for you that you can be able to respond to and put in topics. But wherever you listen or view this, leave us a comment if there's particular topics you want us to try and broach.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well, this was a dope episode, y'all. I mean, 20 episodes. We are so happy y'all here. And we gonna see you at episode 40 or 60 or 100 or whatever, Can't stop.
What's Joe Budden at 500 and something?
He dropped one like every other day. He is consistent as hell.
Yeah.
I love it.
You got to catch up with Joey.
Facts.
I know the other thing I wanted to put out, because we always end with this, is some new book recommendations as well, and see what folks have for some book recommendations. Y'all been reading anything new?
Yeah. So there's a couple of books that I've read and I'm rereading. So there's one that it's called Relentless, and it's from the trainer of Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, Charles Barkley, a lot of the NBA greats, and the mindset behind it. So yeah, it's related to basketball, but it can be applied to business. It can be applied to anything that you're doing, so that you become the strongest person possible and have that right attitude when you're trying to accomplish a goal. So that's one book. Another book is more mental. So Ego is the Enemy. That's a really good book that kind of puts things in perspective, so you understand that things are not all about you, and having the greatness is really about helping other people and not wanting that fame, not wanting that recognition. You're more concerned about the results and the value that you're adding to individuals around you and adding into them as well. So it's a very good book to read.
Awesome. I'll say The Memo by Minda Harts. I love that book. It's not too new. I read it a couple years ago, but it's really for kind of women of color within the workplace. And we all know that the workplace is a place that many of us start to get that wealth to build on, to get that wealth to invest on and with. And if you're a woman of color, you're most likely not getting your share. If you're a person of color, you're most likely not getting your share. So she deals with all of it, from the emotional side to the negotiation side to understanding what you're worth, being valued. So love The Memo. Can't recommend that one enough.
Well, I haven't finished it yet, but I'm close to finishing it. It's a book by Eric Thomas, the motivational speaker, called You Owe You. Man, so it goes into his full story, his whole journey, which I thought I had known parts of it, but there is a lot that I didn't, that I found out about how he's come to be in the position that he is now, how he was able to put together and form his team, and how the decisions, throughout that journey shaped him in who he is today. I've been able to use this recently. I've been able to use this book to unretire 2 MCs.
Oh, okay.
So, for those that follow me on Facebook, I put something up, I don't know, like 2 MCs unretired and counting, and get me in touch with Styles P or something like that. But what I keep referencing is this chapter where he talks about miracles, and he talks about how they actually occur, and it doesn't occur typically in the way that people think that occurs. Like you're sitting around and then something miraculously happens and you had a miracle occur. He talks a lot about putting yourself into position to be able to receive that miracle and making sure that you are patient. If you've been investing and putting in the work for those things to happen, then you're kind of laying the ground floor for that miracle to happen. But you have to be intentional about being surrounding yourself with the right people and being in those places to be able to receive that. And so I was like, I'll reference this with two cats that say, I think I'm done, but I felt like they still had a whole lot to give. And I felt like with their gift, they weren't being as patient as they needed to be because it wasn't happening on the timetable in which they wanted it to happen. So it's working, I guess, for other folks' miracles, right now.
That's
dope.
Yeah,
It's dope.
So that's UOU.
UOU.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to grab that.
Yeah.
Eric Thomas. And his read, at least, I'm on Audible, so read in his own words, his own voice.
Nice.
So.
Yeah. I love hearing him talk.
Yeah. All right. Well, like we said, we gave you multiple episodes to go back, but you can't miss. I don't care what episode that you click on. I mean, you can click on randomly. You can't miss. Every episode has been full of philosophies, concepts, anything and everything that you would be looking for, in the realm of finances. I feel that you'll be able to find it. Motivation. I mean, there's been so many ones that felt so motivational, with Dexter Patterson and Martinez White and so many that fill up your cup, which I think, is essential with everything going on. So make sure to jump on, wherever platforms you listen to podcasts, we're probably there. So if it's Apple, if it's Spotify, if you prefer to see the visuals, we are up on youtube.com/radio22. We're up on the website at myradio22.com. That's actually changed. That's actually BLK Currency Podcast now. And then you can also find us on Linktree. That will connect you to basically any place you can digest and listen to this podcast. So we're extremely appreciative for all of our guests, and extremely appreciative for all of our listeners and all the support that we've gotten in our first 20. I mean, it's been phenomenal. Looking back at where we were in the pre stages before dropping it now, it's incredible to actually take some time and absorb all of the things that have been shared with us.
True.
Absolutely.
So, all right, y'all. Well, we appreciate, like I said, everybody tuning in. We are going to be moving to episode 21 very soon, so be looking out for that. Man, and that's what it is. Y'all stay safe. Y'all take care of yourself. We'll see you in episode 21. Peace.
Peace, y'all.
Ain't you sick of giving me your money? Oh, I know he didn't do it, baby.
Whoa, where you going?
No, I'm about to go make these trouble.